SpaceX's huge Starship rocket could fly again before the summer is out. A fully stacked Starship, the biggest and most powerful rocket ever built, launched for the first time ever on April 20. The test flight from SpaceX's Starbase site in South Texas aimed to send Starship's upper stage spacecraft most of the way around Earth. But that didn't happen. While the vehicle notched some significant milestones, it also experienced several serious problems, and SpaceX sent a self-destruct command a few minutes after liftoff. That timeline may be ambitious, however, given the amount of prep work required ahead of the second flight. For example, the liftoff damaged Starbase's orbital launch mount, blasting out a big crater beneath it and sending chunks of concrete flying, along with a huge cloud of dust and other debris. SpaceX has been developing and testing a water-cooled steel plate that will sit beneath the mount and prevent a recurrence of this problem, Musk said recently. The company could also face some regulatory hurdles. A coalition of environmental groups is currently suing the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, the body that issued Starship's launch license, saying the agency didn't properly assess the potential damage that the giant vehicle could inflict on the South Texas ecosystem and the human communities around Starbase. It's also worth noting that 6 to 8 weeks is not a new Starship prediction for Musk. He laid out a similar timeline for the next test flight during an April 29 discussion of the debut launch on Twitter Spaces, though in that case he was referring to the projected readiness of Starbase and Starship, not predicting when the flight would occur. The 394-foot-tall, 120 meters, Starship consists of a first-stage booster called Super Heavy and a 165-foot-tall, 50 meters, upper-stage spacecraft called Starship. Both of these elements are designed to be fully and rapidly reusable, the key breakthrough that Musk thinks will revolutionize spaceflight. NASA is a believer in the new space transportation system. The agency selected Starship as the first crewed lander for its Artemis moon program. Starship is slated to deliver NASA astronauts to the lunar surface as soon as 2025 if current schedules hold, though there's certainly a chance they will not. SpaceX's stunning launch of dozens of satellites on its Transporter-8 rideshare mission on Monday, June 12, marked a significant milestone for the company's workhorse rocket. The Transporter-8 mission lifted off Monday afternoon from Launch Complex 4 at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California, carrying 6 dozen small satellites toward orbit. But the most interesting action may have come in the downward direction, for the Falcon 9's first stage returned to Earth for the 200th landing in SpaceX's storied history. SpaceX captured the moment on video and shared it with the rest of us, posting a 30-second clip on Twitter Monday after the launch. The video features crisp footage of the booster coming down at Vandenberg's Landing Zone 4, LZ4, just a downrange of the launch pad. The video shows an airborne Falcon 9 just above LZ4 as the rocket makes its final descent burn to slow its trajectory before landing. In the high-def footage, the 4 landing legs at the bottom of the booster can be seen deploying, sequentially dropping from their folded stow against the rocket's body before the vehicle softly touches down. Rocket launch viewing at Vandenberg is typically hit or miss, as the area's facilities are often covered in thick fog. SpaceX's Transporter-8 launch was fortunate enough to lift off against the backdrop of clear skies, making the Falcon 9 return footage that much better. Even the dust kicked up from the single engine used for landing wasn't enough to fully obscure the rocket's picture-perfect mission success. SpaceX first pulled off a rocket landing during an orbital mission in December 2015. The vast majority of the company's touchdowns have involved the Falcon 9, though its Falcon Heavy rocket has a number of landings to its name as well. United Launch Alliance successfully test-fires new Vulcan rocket. Following a successful flight tanking test, FTT, United Launch Alliance fired up the Vulcan rocket for the first time last night. The 2 Blue Origin-built B-4 rocket engines ignited for 6 seconds and pushed EULA closer to their maiden launch of the rocket. United Launch Alliance stated they are more than 98% through the qualification program for Vulcan, and after reviewing data from the Flight Readiness Firing (FRF) and closing the Centaur V anomaly investigation, they will then announce launch plans. During this test firing, the B-4 engines ignited at T 4.88 seconds and ramped up to 60% power for 2 seconds before powering down. The United Launch Alliance Vulcan Centaur rocket has faced many delays leading up to this moment, most recently experiencing an anomaly of the Centaur V upper stage that was undergoing qualification testing at the Marshall Space Flight Center in Alabama. ULA is currently conducting an investigation into the cause of the anomaly, and according to ULA CEO Tori Bruno, they found the issue was on the Centaur upper stage itself, but they are still determining if changes will need to be made to its current flight article that is stacked on Vulcan. Prior to this unexpected issue, Blue Origin originally had planned to deliver 2 of their flight-ready B-4 engines to ULA for integration onto the Vulcan rocket by 2020, but various delays in qualifications and testing meant their delivery slipped significantly to late 2022. Following their integration onto the Vulcan rocket's first stage, it was then shipped aboard ULA's rocket ship down the Mississippi River through the Gulf of Mexico, and after rounding the southern tip of Florida to Port Canaveral, Florida, after which it was unloaded and then transported to the Vertical Integration Facility at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. This FRF test comes before the planned summer launch of Vulcan Centaur, carrying Astrobotic's Peregrine lunar lander and Amazon's first 2 Kuiper satellites, their answer to the SpaceX Starlink satellite constellation. Also known as the CERT-1 flight, the Vulcan Centaur rocket needs to perform 2 successful launches to qualify to launch national security payloads for the U.S. Space Force and other government payloads. The second flight will feature the first launch of the Sierra Space Dream Chaser spaceplane, which will deliver supplies to the International Space Station. As of now, the majority of the payload manifest for Vulcan Centaur is Amazon's Kuiper satellite constellation and U.S. Space Force national security missions. The Vulcan Centaur rocket has a few configurations available to suit multiple payload sizes. The rocket can fly with just the 2 B-4 engines, delivering 1.1 million pounds of thrust at sea level, to flying with 2, 4, or 6 solid rocket boosters, and with 6 SRBs it would bring its thrust up to 3.8 million pounds. This would make the Vulcan Centaur capable of delivering 60,000 ULBs, 27,200 kilograms, to low Earth orbit, or 25,400 ULBs, 11,500 kilograms, to the Moon. ULA is also working toward its seismic reuse system, which will allow the 2 B-4 engines to separate from the first stage, and after an inflatable heat shield deploys, they would return to Earth and splash down for recovery and refurb for their next mission. However, it is unknown when ULA will begin using this capability. So, what are your thoughts about Starship launching again? Tell us in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon with the next video. Thank you so much for watching.